Yeah, we'll do that. Hello, my name is Fabrizio Aiello. Welcome to Creating H.H.Hoover. I have a special guest, Frankie B. Washington.
What's
And we're
up,
just,
everybody? I'm sorry.
no, you're good. And we're just going to
Yeah.
be drawing, inking, and chatting. So if you have any questions, throw it in the comments. But let's get to creating some artwork.
All right.
So I'm going to be working on this. It's essentially inking this.
All
It's
right.
a Horace H. Hoover, and there's like a weird idol. I'm calling it H in the keyhole
right.
idol. So I'll just be inking today.
Okay.
What are you working on?
Well, my thing is that I can't show the comic book work that I'm going to be working on, but my man Spence, he has his new campaign that's up, and
Yeah.
I told him that I'd help him out with some cards, so some Death Curse cards,
Awesome.
and I had already started this. Like I had already talked to him when we were at the at Plastic City Comic Con, and I said, all right, I said I can do anything, right? You know me, I'm a crazy kaiju guy, robots, and he said no problem. So I'm gonna take his character and put that giant head on a bunch of different iconic bodies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kajus and our robots maybe. So
That's awesome.
So this first one is Godzilla. So I got my little reference of Godzilla right here just to get a sense of body and stuff, and there you go.
That's great. Yeah, I saw that. Like I had gotten City of Rot, but I'm sorry, I can't think of the name. The camp.
Oh, here you go. Here you go.
Yeah, Return to Camp Rainbow. That was a surprise. I wasn't expecting to get it, but it looks so good.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I want to make sure people can get a good view. Let me angle my camera. I know it's so tricky trying to find the sweet spot, when drawing.
Yeah, it's tough. I've tried every setup imaginable. I think I have one that works, but until you get in it, sometimes it's like, oh, that angle doesn't work.
All right, it's kind of at a slant, but I think people will be able to get the gist. All right, let's do this. Yeah, so it's I can't wait. Hoover's going to be coming out in September or October.
September, so in the fall. Yeah.
Woo! Good times.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time. This will be my first, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on how to approach it whenever it comes out?
I think what's going to happen is people are going to ask a ton of questions about it, which is natural. But I think also you're going to get the questions about what's next. A lot of that probably. When's the next one coming out? it never fails. That question always comes, in there somewhere. But no, there's just generally there'll just be some interest for it and stuff, which is great. I mean, people are looking at your artwork and they're really digging your artwork. So you got actually a leg up, somewhat. So you're doing good.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll see. It was cool meeting people at Plastic City, just to hear their thoughts, instead of just a Twitter comment. So that's always, it's a totally different experience. And again, you've done it before, but it's the first time I've been able to talk to somebody who was interested in something I was doing like that. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to experience what Plastic City does, because Plastic City technically does like the old school way of the comic book shows, where it's pretty much bare. I mean, it bears down to, it's really the artist or the creator, and they get to interact with the the consumers, the ones who are coming in to purchase something, be it a print, be it a comic book or whatever else. So there's not a lot of that extra, the fluff. Sort of like with San Diego Comic Con. If you went to San Diego Comic Con, you would be like, and it had a table there, and it would be if it was your first time, it'd be so overwhelming. It would be a very overwhelming experience, no doubt.
So how is your crowdfunding going?
Well, I mean, we're asking for 2,000, and we're over the 1,000 mark, and it's only been roughly less than a week. So that's pretty good, starting right out the door, especially with because we decided to go with Zoop, which is like the newest player on the block. And yeah, it's been pretty good actually. I mean, we've contacted Zoop a few times, and they responded back very fast. Uh, they've definitely been promoting it online and stuff. On Instagram. I know she's not Instagram, Twitter. So they definitely do those posts and stuff like that. I mean, they're the new guys. They're the new guys on the
Yeah.
block. So they got a ways to go in the sense of building up a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Well, people can believe in them enough to be like,
right.
yeah, like a brand, like their brand is like, yeah, I'm gonna, I trust the fact that their brand's gonna do this. They're working on that, as any new business would.
Yeah. I mean, it's a field that needs as much competition as possible. So it's great
Sure.
to see
Sure.
new people entering that.
Oh yeah, options are always wonderful. We options are fantastic for the consumer, and great for the business as well, because it forces businesses to never get complacent.
Yeah.
You know.
The one thing about crowdfunding that I didn't really understand until later is how much you have to promote it, because
Yes.
literally if somebody posts something on Twitter, most of the time I don't have that time available to go right to a
Yep.
so the constant reminding is key, because there are so many times where I'm like, oh crap, I have to do that, I have to do this, I got to fund that, and it's really key to just constantly talk about it.
Well, again, I've worked in advertising, so it's always funny when I tell people, I was like, how many times have you seen a TV commercial or heard a commercial on the radio? These big companies are spending thousands of dollars for agencies to concept and create their their ad, and then their ad is put out there on the airwaves and the radio waves, so many times, because it has to get heard, because there's always going to be somebody new who hasn't heard it, and it's a continuous thing. So you try to imagine somebody, first off, guys like us who don't have that level of finances to be able to hire an ad agency or anything like that. Because if we did, I mean, man, it'd be a lot different. You'd be like, oh, I got the money.
Yeah.
You'll see ads all over the place. It'd be fantastic. But when you don't have that level of money, which is a lot of capital, then you got to go guerrilla style. And guerrilla style is guerrilla marketing is when you're just out there and you're talking about your product, whatever it is, but also being mindful that it's not just about using the same tag constantly over and over again. It's also about engaging people and and trying to see if there's a different way in which you can come and to give the information for whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, you constantly do art and new art, so it's like nobody will get sick of anything, because you're like, everything is new for you. And I think that is also key. Whenever I was like, okay, I need to promote Horace, but I'm like, the only thing I really had to promote was like pages of the book, but I didn't want to keep just giving pages and panels of the book away.
Exactly.
So I really started to sit down and just do these kinds of drawings, which are, I think they're evocative, so people get an idea of the stories, that get an idea of the character, but I'm not giving anything away. I'm not giving out pages. So that's been really cool, and I think I'm going to do a lot more of that.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, I think that's a smart way. I think that YouTube has a great advantage of getting the information out to people, because right now at this point, we're not paying anything to be on YouTube. Not right now, but so that's guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing is about the fact of you doing your advertising, but you have no money, but you're finding creative ways to get the information out about whatever it is that you're trying to get out to the masses. And so going on, having a YouTube channel and just drawing your work and talking about it and engaging people who may not know anything about it, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, speaking of guerrilla marketing, this was kind of funny. Whenever I was in Salem just this past week before Plastic City, I found a little like a lending library, those free little lending libraries.
Sure.
And I threw there's a bookmark of Horace H.H.Hoover in a random book.
Oh, nice. That's very good.
Which I thought,
that's totally guerrilla there. That's guerrilla style.
Yeah.
Nothing
exactly.
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I may have left
gorilla.
one or two.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
what you're supposed to do. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's a fine line if you become so obnoxious, and it's just like and you're just sort of plastering stuff all over the place. It's almost like somebody who has a bunch of flyers and they're just constantly doing the same flyers over and over again and just throwing masses of them at one particular place or whatever. Then yeah, people get
yeah,
annoyed by that. But if you become you're doing it sporadically and stuff like that, and you're kind of strategic in how you handle it. People will respect that.
yeah. You're right. There is a fine line between like plastering your stuff all over and advertising, just
Yeah,
in a
it,
clever way, in a
yeah.
a not in your face way.
Well, it's all about strategizing. Strategy plays a huge component in advertising, pretty much in anything. Yeah, I mean, I always think like when I see people and they're talking about like how to market themselves and whatever, I'm like, you really have to look at how films are being put out. Films don't immediately just get put out. There's a huge campaign. It's like months and months. This is after like say like they're filming and then they're in pre-production. No, sorry, not pre-production. Well, first pre-production, then they start filming, then post-production. That's on the film side, but on the marketing side, they're already working on strategies on like how we're gonna do this. How we're gonna be online advertising. We're gonna do print media. We're gonna do TV. It's huge. It's a huge,
Yeah,
huge undertaking with thousands of people working. Think about that. Thousands of people working for one endeavor to make sure that whatever the IP that they're promoting gets the most maximum coverage. That's insane. So it's like the thing is, it's not an easy thing. You have to be able to sit back and sort of strategize, an idea, go over the idea, talk to people about it a little bit, just to get just some second kind of opinions or whatever. I mean, you overall, you're the one who finally has to decide on how you want to approach it. But once you figure things out the way you like it and you want to try your hand, then you just go for it.
yeah,
It will become natural to you. But again, it's like you have to do it. It's like I hate to say it, but it's like a car salesman. You know, the only way a car salesman gets really good, a salesperson, excuse me, gets really good is when they keep doing it. They've been doing it for so long that it's just second nature.
yeah. And I think, I mean, for me personally, I finally start to feel pretty not relaxed or confident in the drawing part of it, that I
Hmm.
feel I can, okay, I have that not down, you know what I'm saying, but like you get a certain
Yeah,
confidence with it that I
yeah,
can, okay, now I can add something else to the skill set. And that is,
sure.
a way to market or, to do that other stuff that really helps.
That's one of the things that I enjoy about Pete when I see him out there. Like, look again, you look at King Cryptid, right? And the way Pete has handled it has been phenomenal. Because technically, it's not King Cryptid is not technically a just an alternate comic book. He's a creator. That's his creator owned
Hmm.
property IP. So the way he's handled in the sense of getting that information out to people and stuff like that has been, you know, business 101. He's been consistent. And in his consistency, other people have jumped into it. You know, and I think that's the formula that many of us can look at. And of course, the other factor is that if you already have people who are somewhat into your stuff as well, that helps too. That helps a
Yeah.
lot as well,
Yeah.
big
It's
time.
pretty amazing. The King Cryptid stuff, sometimes a character design just kind of hits
Hmm.
and people love it just for the character design. And then
Sure.
when they get to the story, it's a whole other world that gets opened up for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's going to be. Also, I'm a little intimidated because I'm going to be working on an issue next year,
Oh,
and
awesome. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, I was supposed to work on the issue this year because Pete had asked me, and I told him, I said, "Oh, Pete," I said, "I'm sorry, man." I said, I'm doing Kajis and Cowboys because we're trying to, for ourselves, we're trying to get ahead of the curve. So I'm up to issue 4, already done with Kajis and
Wow.
Cowboy. Yeah, yeah, we're cranking. Our mission is that we're trying to do a 12 issue series. run. This would be like the run, but it'd be 12 issues. So that's our goal mark that we left. And that's what Matthew felt comfortable in doing. I was like, all right, cool, let's do that. Let's put 12 issues out in front, and that'll be it. And then we'll see where it leads us. So that's all I've been doing, focused on that. So I had to sort of decline because I just was like, I was right in the midst of really working on Kaijus and Cowboys. But looks like I'll be jumping on the old King when the first of the. I don't know actually when, but I think it's gonna be early next year.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I
that's gonna be
love
fun.
the fact that you're doing 12 issues of Kaijus and Cowboys too, because I mean, I like one shots as much as the next person, but there's
Yep.
just something about having a 12 issue run that
Yeah.
is just, I don't know, it hits that like sweet spot where you can tell a longer story, you can really get into things. It really opens up the world.
Well, that's the whole thing with we've been, when we've been posting, we've been sort of bringing in that whole thing where we're asking people who have been nostalgic for the Bronze Age, because that's where I grew up. Grew up during
Yep.
the Bronze Age of comics. This is the kind of story that we're doing. We're giving you that insight, that small insight that this is the kind of stuff that we love to do, and we really strongly believe that other people are out there who are maybe nostalgic for it, and also even newer people who know nothing about it.
Yeah,
So
I'm also 100% Bronze Age person.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
that era, as far as I'm concerned, like it was the peak. And I know everybody says their era was the peak.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've heard people who honestly, and I don't know. It's so weird to hear somebody talking you can tell that they were born roughly like during the 90s and so who experienced comic books during the 90s and
Yeah.
90s and up, and pretty much that's their only sort of insight to the comic book, the whole comic book experience, which is in a certain degree is kind of so strange to me, because when I was younger, back in like the late 70s and the 80s and into the 80s, I looked at all the old comics. Like I love looking at reprints from the 40s,
Hmm.
the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. I mean, I was just like, I wanted to learn more and more, and I never looked at the comics that would come out even in the late 70s and the 80s as being the end all. Like I always looked at them as like, oh, they're just part of it. So it's strange for me when I see people who are talking about the 90s as being the one, the time when comic books really supposedly were at their apex.
Yeah, it's strange for me too.
Yeah, it is. It's an odd thing, and even more odder is the fact that they're not even aware or even trying to educate themselves about the comic books that came before. Which again I find even equally strange. Like you should want to at least look at some of the stuff that came before it. It wasn't all just Kirby. I think the thing about it is Kirby and Stanley and Kirby have become talking points, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because they're well-known names. But what about Alex Toth? What about like this? I mean, there's so many. I mean, Herb Trimpe. That's why I'm always mentioning Herb Trimpe. When I see a lot of people who post Godzilla stuff, a lot of them are posting some of Herb Trimpe's artwork from the Marvel Godzilla thing, and they have no idea who he is. And
Yeah,
it's like, whoa.
I think you're right. Like people are like, okay, everything in the past was Stanley and Jack Kirby, and
Yeah.
then I'm like, well, there were a lot of amazing artists and writers back in the
yes.
day, and
Yes.
it is a shame whenever I see that it gets glossed over to Kirby and Jack, who I love. I don't get.
Oh, I love him too. Yeah. Nothing.
But
And there's
it's
nothing.
like-
yeah.
Gene Colan, and I mean, all of those guys are just incredible. And
Oh, yeah. Steve
Incredible
Ditko.
job.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Jeez. I mean, Frank Robbins. Frank Robbins is another one who I love his work. He did a lot of the Invaders.
Okay.
And, a ton of stuff. And then his work, I love his work because he almost has that almost storyboard kind of style, like a lot of energy in his work. And he was very expressive. Like when he did characters, there would be this almost like if a character was in anguish, he would draw anguish. Like you could feel the pain in a character or something like that. And I loved his work. John Byrne, of course, Mike Mignola. I mean, it goes on and on. You give me John and Sal Buscema, who did Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, that's like John Buscema, as far as I'm concerned. He is like my idol when it comes to like anatomy. Nobody comes. I mean,
anatomy and just energy. That's the thing that I think that I find that somewhat, I don't like to get on like. Look at I don't mind realism. I think realism is great to a certain degree. I think Alex Ross does realism, but Alex Ross is an illustrator, and he really understands his using his paints and stuff like that to really give a sense of movement to what he's drawing. And that's a rare thing for people who are painting and stuff like that. But yeah, Sal, John, when that work came out, there was such an energy to it, such a power. Like when Conan was swinging his axe,
Yeah.
you could feel the energy. Like it was just like you could feel the strength of it. Like wham, and oh, incredible.
Yeah, whenever I pick up like old books just to kind of page through. I mean, obviously John Buscema, I loved, and he's much less known, but like Ron Friends did this really great run on Thor. Love his stuff.
Yep.
I mean, I could go on and on about the.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Oh, some of my favorites that I met in person was Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan did DP7. He also did oh god, he did so many. I think he did some Spider-Man stuff. But I loved his work. God, Alan Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of great artists, man. And then I think what happens is that you get a lot of the youngsters, and they just kind of get locked into. Well, that's what I've noticed that also with the kaiju community, where and that's the uphill battle that we have. People who are trying to create new kaiju related material, is that much of the kaiju, a big chunk of them, I think, are so again into the talking point of Godzilla, or or Ultraman, or the main stuff, and it's like they're not, they're almost like there's no sense of like, well, there was other things too out there that were, that part that were kaiju related. What about the American kaiju movies of the 50s, like them, the giant ants, or the giant colossal man, or the 50-foot woman? I consider her a kaiju. The giant tarantula. I mean, there was a lot of those movies too in the 50s that America did, and they were very good movies. They were fantastic. So, it came from beneath the sea. Ray Harryhausen. So, but so it's just, I think there's just a mentality of just like talking points, and in a sense of like, well, why should I go further? I'm this is as far as I want to go, because this way I go, and it's like, oh, maybe just a little bit, just venture, just
I think you're right. People got stuck, and they were afraid to just go a little, like you said, a little further. Sometimes I see some character design from some recent comic books. I'm like, that is the most boring, like, character design. Like, it's okay. You can literally do anything you want at this point. Just push it. If it doesn't work, rein it back, but at least try.
Well, we have to remember that there's a point. Well, and I also blame this on technology too. When the internet opened up, and then the power of Photoshop came in, you had a lot of people who were doing a lot of the actual term is called ripping, which is reproduction. I mean, you reproduce, excuse me. So it's more like, when I was in advertising, when we called ripping, it was technically, you're like a human copy machine. You're technically copying from one image, and you're doing it in whatever your style is, or no, not style, but your medium, and you're just creating the same exact image. And so you had a lot of that going on for a long time, and it was all because of certain things like the software, did nice colors or whatever, and it kind of, in a certain degree, in my opinion, forced people not to really challenge themselves anymore. Especially in the fact when all of a sudden if you post something and you get like 100 people liking it, and then all of a sudden it's like, where's your motivation now? You got 100 people liking it, but here's the kicker: you got 100 people that like it, but no one's buying your work. Like, you got prints and stuff, but no one's buying it. I always would sit there and be like, oh man. So that's one of those weird things where it's like,
for me, I try to do, I don't want to say crazy stuff, because that's the other thing. I don't want to do weird for the sake of weird.
Exactly.
But I start with big shapes, and I
Yes.
really and that really informs the character design. Before I have an idea, I'm like, okay, just push this out here, make this big, and then I'll carve out like the actual character.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's like well, for instance, when I was doing Bwin, who's the robot cowboy guy, when Matthew first approached me, he said, Frank, man, he said, what about an idea about sort of like he was engaged in thoughts because what his whole thing was he told me was that he wanted to create something that we can because we've been working on some other stuff together, and he said, well, Frank, I know you like kajus, I like kajus somewhat, but I know you really love them. So he said, what about this idea of like a kaju story and whatever, and we had one. We started one and it came out on a Wednesday. It was called Team KS1. So I'm not sure if I think there's two stories that popped up, and it came out. It came out on a Wednesday. Don't. I think there is. I think there was two stories. But anyway, we playing around with that idea. But then we also talked about westerns, and I was like, yeah, man. I was like, yeah, I love spaghetti westerns and that kind of stuff. And so first thought that came in my head was Clint Eastwood. I thought of Clint Eastwood, The Man with No Name, and then I said robot wise, I love Jet Jaguar from Godzilla. I loved his face, and then I loved Machine Man from the
Oh
Jack
yeah.
Kirby run. And so and then from there I just had Bwin. I had the first initial run that I had on Bwin, nailed it. It was like Matthew loved it. I actually ended up doing another design, and he hated it. But I'm not. But yeah, he hated it. He was just like, "No, Frank, I like the first one." But the thing about it is, like, I'm one of those people where I hate throwing away any kind of characters, so I know I'm gonna probably end up using it somewhere down the line, you know. But I'm one of those people who believe that characters exist. Like every character is important. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I stockpile mine too, and maybe I don't use it for this issue, or maybe I don't use it for the series,
Exactly.
but it's definitely going to get used.
So how many do you have? Like the Hoover books already laid out, like mapped out, like how many issues you're gonna do, or?
So it's a 5-issue miniseries, and I have 2 of those books done, and one I'm working on the third right now.
Wow.
And then after that, it's going to be ongoing. Like I said, I really love the idea of an ongoing, longer series. So that was the miniseries. The beginning sort of just kind of, I mean, it lays the foundation. You get to meet characters. But the ongoing, it's gonna be an origin story, and we're gonna learn a lot about the bigger sort of universe that he's involved in. So,
now, what kind of production time do you give yourself to do, like, say, a book?
I mean, I do everything, like lettering, coloring, 100% of it. So,
yeah,
I've been trying to do 3 months, but it's more like 4.
Yeah, see, that's me. I usually, people ask me, and I usually give a 3-month period. Just to be like, so it just gives me a little bit of breathing room. And I always tell them, I say, well, the reason why is that for 3 months, that extra, whatever that time is, what happened if somebody gets sick? What if we have to make edits? Those are the things because a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about production time. They just go, okay, I'm going to do this book. And then they go, whatever. And then all of a sudden something happens in their private life. And they're like, oh my God, I got sick. I can't do this and that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that's all right. But see, you're doing everything.
It's tough. I'm not going to lie.
It is tough.
It's tough.
Man.
I mean, yeah. But I do think that after I get these 5 issues done, I might have somebody at least help with the coloring or lettering or something that's not,
Yeah, I was just thinking that myself, thinking of lettering, that might help you out a lot.
Because I don't really have a graphic design background. I have done it in the past because I've worked for myself doing, programming and advertising, whatever they needed, basically. So I have done it, but it's not my strong suit. So
and it's tedious.
Pros. Yes.
Yeah, and it's tedious. Let's call it what it is. It is. It's really tedious. That's why I always get a chuckle because, I get people who ask me, they go, oh, well, Frank, you should do your own book and whatever. And it's like, dude, I've been down this route before. And it's like, I know the amount of time that it takes to do something. And just the mental energy of having to create a story, and then you got to do the lettering, and it can wear on you. It can actually, and some people have, where it's literally forced them to just be like, I can't do this anymore. And that sucks.
Yeah. It was, in the first book was obviously the most difficult. but I feel like I made such improvement, on all of that stuff that going into the second book, I'm like, okay, I feel good. And it's mostly, I've found that it's process. Like once you get your process down, that's a huge thing for me.
Oh yeah.
What's the software I'm going to use for this? How am I going to do the coloring? How am I going to do effects? And so I feel like I have the process down, which was, man, it seemed like it took forever to get that down, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I agree. I always say, like, if you can get that, whatever your thing is that helps with your production and stuff like that, that's a key component. You definitely need that.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if you approach drawings this way, but it's something that I've noticed these past couple of years that has sort of helped me. And in the past, I never approached a drawing the same way twice, but now I like outline inks, then I do spot my blacks, and then I do texturing. Do you approach it the same way, or do you have your own sort of process every time?
Well, I kind of gave a sort of inkling of my process that with my thumbnails. That's why, like, when I do my thumbnails, I tend to do my thumbnails very tight, because what happens is once the client sees the thumbnails, they can get a sense. They can say, okay, well, Frank, I need some edits. I can do the edits very quickly in Photoshop, and they're technically inked. Now, once everything's okay and I get the clear from the client, now I can take those thumbnails and I just blow them up, and I already have the illustration already set. I just have to retrace it onto the comic book board. So yeah, I mean, it's a process. Some people might feel that it might be a slow process, but usually it takes me, like, I give myself a roughly like around 3 days, maybe 1 to 2, 3. Yeah, 1 to 3 days. I'll say 1 to 3 days, depending on the number of pages and how much I'm into it. Yeah, but to me that doesn't seem like a long time. It's just I just once the transfer onto the from the tracing pad, the light board, the light table onto the actual boards. Then when I start drawing, then the drawing is just to clean up and then just adding right in. And I just like I'm drawing this right here with the Godzilla.
Yeah.
That's I find that to be the most quicker way. I just become so used to that form. Do you do thumbnails? Okay.
I do thumbnails, but then I redraw on the page, and I actually change quite a bit on the full size page. But I feel pretty comfortable doing that now. In the beginning, I was really nervous about that.
Yeah.
But the paper that I use takes a lot of erasing if I need to. And what I do is I'll draw on Strathmore, I think it's 200. It takes a beating. Okay. And then I ink on blue line on this really smooth surface. So I don't have to worry. Yeah, like if I erased a ton, and it won't affect the inks because I ink on blue line.
Oh, see, that's pretty cool, man. Nice. It's like I'm trying to find you. I'm trying to post on Twitter that we're doing a draw stream, and I'm like, but I can't find you on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I think. Oh, let me. I'll post that.
Yeah, you post it. Yeah, then I'll tag. Yeah, that's so weird that they do that. That doesn't even make sense to me. It's like all these different things that they do. This feels like it makes it much more tougher. By the way, this music is amazing. It's a nice little jam.
Bad. Yeah.
I know ever since we moved and stuff, my whole setup is so different now. It's like I actually have to. I have a MacBook Pro, so I had to pull my MacBook Pro off from where my actual desk is, and then put it onto my drawing table. So it's like it's definitely a different kind of way that I'm doing stuff now. It's like so I like it. I mean, I love my new place though. I love it. It's a lot better.
Yeah, getting set up after a move takes forever. It just takes forever to get comfortable again.
Yeah, we're slowly getting back to that. We're still off our routine somewhat, but we're slowly getting back. All right. Did you just end up posting?
Yeah, I just posted on
Okay,
Twitter
cool.
that we're live.
Yeah, I'll tag you. So see if we can get some people in here.
I tagged
All right.
you. Yep, Frankie B. Yep.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like on the weekends I'll just do a draw stream open just to.
Well, that's cool.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been so busy. I've had to cut down on some of my own postings too. Like sometimes I would do a live stream on Facebook, or I started doing show and tell. I thought those, which is so funny because the show and tell, I would get numerous people just to see my just to show my collector side of the stuff that I collect, and people, of course, they love that. And then the draw streams are okay. I was doing a bunch of them now. I was doing a bunch of them, but to a certain degree, they can be kind of tough while I'm in the art flow, man. Like sometimes there's points where I'm just drawing. I'm just whatever, just working on a page, and the camera could be cumbersome, because I'm focusing on the camera, making sure that I'm staying in the thing. It's like, I don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this works because I'm inking. I have a hard time drawing and doing this. Inking is a lot easier for me, when you don't have to think too much about it.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing. All right, shout out here. Yeah, so I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to see if I can help Spence out with it. It looks like his campaign. He got the money that he was looking for, and he's probably get more. So
that looks awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It turned out great. I love it.
All right, here you go. I wish I could type faster. Ugh. All right, cool. See how that goes. I know Pete's gonna be on Ben Soto's show at 1.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, so that's cool.
I'll have to check that out for sure.
It's so hot, man. I got my fans going. How you doing?
It's terrible. It's just like
it's oppressive. That's the word. That's the word for the day. Oppressive. Yeah.
It's just terrible. I always say I'm going to move north, but at this point, I'd have to move really far north to escape.
It's hot. Hey, newsflash, it's hot here too.
I know.
Oh man, yeah. Like what we do, like it's so funny because we actually have an AC. We have like a floor AC that it's the kind that it has a hose and you can extend like a sort of massive hose. You connect it to your window, but the main device is like one of those things. So anyway. What happened was it early this week? We were like, we'll cut it on when we get ready to, maybe an hour or so before we go to bed. That was wrong, by the way. we actually like, the in-laws were like, what are you doing? You got to have it on like hours before if you want the temperature to drop down in the room. So we learned. So like, I think we usually now cut it on like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we close the door. So that when we decide to go to bed, then it's like it's freezing cold inside. The tough part is that we got a cat. So the cat, we don't have a doggy door, of course, because we just moved in here in this place, and so she's just like in and out. She wants in and out, and it's like oh God. Do you have pets?
I don't have pets. No.
All right.
Yeah, I used to live in this one house, and I was on the 3rd floor.
Oh yeah.
Even with AC, it was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah, that's us. It is hot, man. The heat is rising. But hopefully we'll get a little bit of a reprieve. I'll tell you one thing. There's nothing more amazing than when you actually get your comic book done. You know what I mean? Like when you get into that final stage, like when you get the actual book in your hand and you look at it. Like, do you ever read? Well, I don't know. You say, is this your first comic, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that feeling, like, because usually what happens, like when I have had comic books that I've worked on, I tend not to read them. I'll get them. I'll look at them and stuff like that, or I'll read them like it'll be like a year later or whatever. But I tend not to. This is the strangest thing. Like I
It's
don't
interesting.
immediately like I look at them more in the sense of quality control. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm looking at it more with the more quality control kind of eye. Like I'll be like, well, I don't like the way that color look. Maybe next time I'll change that color, or the way a panel or a scene look. That's the kind of thing. Like when I first saw the when we did the first Kickstarter for Codgers and Cowboys, the zero issue. You know, I looked at it when I finally got it because I was like, oh my god, I need to see this. You know, and I kept telling Matthew, because he was dealing with all that with the printers. I said, dude, just send it as soon as possible because I need to see it. I want to see how the colors look and whatever. And I learned a lot from that. You know, I tend to look at it more with a you know, that kind of eye that's more like, you know, constructive eye,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, I'll be like, well, next time. And that's the thing. I've been in it for so long where I don't really beat myself up over stuff. Like I go, yeah, it's bad. It's like, you know, I'm way past that. I used to when I was younger, when I first got into the industry, but as I got older, I just go, well, you know, hey, next time. There's always be a
Yeah.
next time. And I think that's the thing people don't understand. Well, I don't know. They've kind of forgotten that the cool thing about books or comic books when they were like those sort of series, so they had like longevity, like say 12 issues and up, even further. It gave the story and the artist and team a time for these characters sort of develop, maybe the art style, so people can sort of get into the art style and the flow of it and stuff like that. When you only do one or maybe four issues, you're not given a lot. There's not a
Yeah.
lot to really play with, and that can be kind of tough, you know.
Yeah, something I've been telling myself, and this might be obvious to everybody else, but I hit a certain point where I said, you know what? I'm going to finish every drawing virtually, you know, because
Yes.
before I got stuck in this loop of where I would start a drawing, I didn't like it, and I'd bail every time. And
Mm,
I felt like I never improved. But when I started to, you know what? I'm going to finish it. I don't care what it looks like. I'll do better next time, like you said. That's when I really started to improve, I felt like.
yeah. All right. I'm gonna draw a little cursor. I don't know if I don't think I'm done with this card yet, but I'm done with this stage. I don't know.
Phase,
We'll have
yeah.
to see. Stay tuned. Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm gonna start on this next one. Okay, so that's Godzilla, and maybe I should have wrote Godzilla on it. Yeah, that would have probably helped. Let's see. Artist. I'll say Godzilla. There you go. Put it in there. I hate, you know, so people aren't guessing too much. And then this one right here will be King Kong, and he sort of
Oh,
swatted
cool.
a. Yeah, now I'm just starting with this one. He just swatted a helicopter.
That's great.
Because as I always tell people, with kaiju, you want to have helicopters in there.
Love it.
All right.
So the sort of kaiju community that you were talking about, what
Mm-hmm.
do you think the overlap is for sort of traditional comics or movies, or like what's a typical sort of fan, do you think?
Well, I think that for the kaiju fan, actually, honestly, I have to admit I'm still kind of learning myself because I think that a lot of people who are what I've noticed who are into kajus, they tend to be more into a lot of the films,
Hmm.
like the Godzilla movies, Ultraman movies, or things like that. Um, IDW definitely had a lot of the Godzilla books and stories, and I think that helped bring many people into the more comic book side of it. But yeah, I don't really get a sense like because there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people out there that are trying to do a lot of indie books with kajus and things like that, and you just don't really see sometimes the
Hmm.
enthusiasm from the fandom, whether or not you
Interesting.
know they'll go for it. Like I think that they're kind of it's more of an interest in a sense of like yeah, if I sat here and told them yeah I'm working on Godzilla versus King Kong or something, then I think that reviewers and whatever will probably pick me up and be like, oh wow, okay, that's cool or whatever. Instead of the fact of like, yeah, I'm working on kind of this original IP that's a you know independent book, and you know, would you be interested in looking at that? And I think that that's going to be the toughest sell. So I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
trying. I mean, the thing is that we're both trying to sort of just try to put it out to people that you know it is there's a really good market, and we're not the only ones. That's the other thing too. There's a lot of people out there that are putting out. There's more kaiju novels that have been coming out, tons of novels, and there's also creators, people like Blake, those guys who did Territory. That's a kaiju book, and they're doing fantastic. They're up to issue 3 now, and was it Kaiju Max with Xander Cannon? That did really good. I mean, so there's definitely a lot of stuff out there. I
Yeah.
just, for me, I'm really hoping that the people who are doing reviews and stuff like that can just be conscious of that and just say, hey, look, we see what you're doing, and we're going to be there for you. That's all. You know, I'm,
Yeah,
I, I, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say you want people to stick with you because it's like what's in store or what's ahead, and you just want them to stick around for a little bit.
Well, for me, the only thing I think of it more in the sense of like the mom and pop store, the mom and pop store. I think all they're asking is someone just to come and take a chance. That's
Yeah.
all they're asking. They know that you're already like you're into Walmart, or you're into Amazon, or you're into whatever that major brand is. They know that already. But with that said, all they're asking is just that one little opportunity, just to say, well, why don't you just come into the door? It's almost like if people are walking by the mom and pop store, they look through the window and they're looking at some stuff and they go, wow, it's some interesting stuff, but then they just keep walking. And they're not just saying, okay, well, let me just take a breather. I'll just go on inside, take a look inside, and then see what happens. That's all.
Yeah.
And I think that actually that argument right there could be something that can spread into all of, into indie comic books. I actually said it in one of my posts. I said that the reality is that I feel that in most cases that a lot of fans who read comic books, there's this sense of that it's also in the movie, like you do in the movies where you're yelling at the screen because the person's only looking right when the killer's on the left, and you're like, the killer's there, just look, he's right over there, and the person's refusing to look on the left, and then of course the killer gets them. So I feel like the same thing. We, all of us, are indie creators, and we're on the left side of this massive field, right? And we're in our little side, and we got our bullhorns out, and we got our lights, and we're just trying to get the attention of the consumers who, regardless of what, their gaze is locked on the bigger guys.
Yeah.
And when I say bigger guys, I'm not even going to focus on just Marvel and DC, because the bigger guys are Image, Dark Horse, Omni Press, Behemoth is now growing big, pretty big. Even Scout Comics. I mean, those are huge competitors. I mean, these are people that are out there and stuff like that. And I'm glad that they're out there, trust me. But the thing is, all I'm just saying is that it's okay. There's some guys also, or people also, creators, that are just on the left-hand side, the left side.
Yeah.
And all they just want is just your gaze, just to shift that gaze over, just a tad. That's all. No, just a tad.
Yeah.
I
was just gonna say I used to go to this comic book shop and a lot. It's been a long time, but every time I would go in and the guy, I can't think of his name, but he'd be like, "So what are you looking for today?" And I'm like, something different. Like that was my go-to. I'm like, just show me something different.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, when I was young and I was into comic books and stuff, I used to go. I remember going to Newberry Comics, and when I lived in Boston, Newberry Comics on Newberry Street. But then across from Newberry Comics was this place called Victor Hugo's. Victor Hugo's was like what do they call those old bookstores? Antiquarians? Is that antiquarians? No. It was like an old bookstore. You go in there, just dusty old books and all kind of weird knickknacks. So anyway, Victor Hugo was like that. Like you go inside and there was this wall to wall, like those books. But what was really cool was this guy, the person who was, I don't know if he was the guy running or owned the whole thing or whatever, but he was there. But anyway, he had like a box, like a couple of crates, and they were filled with comic books. Just filled with like old, weird comic books and stuff like that. And I used to be like, oh man, I'm gonna go through that. And I did. And I found so many amazing stuff. And it was just so exciting. Like when you're in there and stuff, and you find these really old books. I mean, books from like, because it wasn't even like they were in order or anything. It was just like, it was just like you go in and you see Prince Valiant, from the 40s. And you go, oh, and I mean, it wasn't in the best condition. I mean, I remember finding some Jack Kirby stuff that wasn't in the best condition, but it was readable to me. I was like, that's readable.
Yeah.
It was missing the cover, but I'll still read it. I was like, all right, kid, here you go. I'll give you that for 5 cents. That kind of thing. They're like, wow.
Yeah, so I used to get comics at this local newsstand, but they would never get comic books in sequence ever.
Mm,
Like
mm,
an issue of this, an issue of that. So like as I would show up every Wednesday, but it didn't mean I was going to get a big run of a series. But I think back to that, I kind of in my head I would finish the stories, or if it was in the middle of a story, I would kind of fill in what happened before to get me there. And I think
sure.
that's actually kind of like an exercise in imagination on top of
Yep.
just all this cool stuff you're looking at.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. No, I mean, I don't know. There's something. There was always something wonderful. Like when I used to go to cons, well, go to shows. I would always go down Artist Alley, man, and I would just be like, you see all this wonderful different art, man, and I would be like, I'd want to be like, push a seat aside, let me jump in there so I can draw with you, kind of thing. Yeah, I never had that thing. Some people they'll get kind of jealous of people and stuff, and I never had that. For me, I always thought it was always a learning lesson. There was always something new and unique about someone's style and work, and I'd be like, oh man, how'd you do that? Wow, oh man, I gotta try that and whatever. And for me, it would always be mentally. Like mentally, I would be able to get some kind of image from what they did, and I would mentally be able to, okay, I like the way that they did the shading in there, or they added the blacks, or they laid out the composition. It's like that's what I used to get from Artist Alley, as well as purchase their what were those books? They weren't full comic books. They were
Like ash cans.
yes, there you go, ash
Yeah.
cans. And what wasn't another name? There was ash cans, and maybe that's just it. I thought there was
I don't
another
know.
name they gave them. Yeah, because I always felt like they had another name where it was like ash cans and then something else. But anyway, they would be like comic books that were printed like a copy cop or something.
Yes.
Copy cop. You know what I mean? Copy
Yep.
cop. Kids today like, what are you talking about? Copy cop? Yeah, yeah. Kinkos.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Oh man. So, but that was great.
Yeah, but yeah, I've always had the same thing. Like you said, you never got jealous of people. I looked at it as a learning experience. The same with critiques. Like if I knew like an artist saw my work and said you need to work on this or that, I never got offended. I'm like, thank
Oh
you
yeah.
so much for pointing that out.
Oh
To
yeah.
me, it was like, please, you tell me everything you see that's wrong with this, and I will try to fix it.
Oh, the people that I dealt with, I remember hanging with guys who were working in the industry, like that, because there was a group of us, and we all would go. Sometimes we hang out up in New York, and go to some of their places and hang with them and learn. And they were just like, they kept it real. It was like real, like they didn't shy in their language, And I'm not gonna whatever, repeat it, but it was hardcore language, and they were like, hey, look, this is such and such and whatever, and
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta listen. Don't always think you know all the answers, and it's true. I was young and I had all that bravado, and I thought I had knew the universe, and I didn't know jack. I needed to learn. That was one thing I'm very fortunate to that I had was a lot of mentors. I had a lot of mentors in my life, just people who entered my life from all walks, all different shades, hues, whatever, who came into my life, and they would just talk and they would share their wisdom to this young kid who had a chip on his shoulder. And the thing about it was, the good thing about me was that even though I would huff and puff and I'd had my little whatever, I would listen. I'm a good listener. I'm a good, like, I may not at the moment, at the time, people would think I wasn't listening, but I would, once I leave, I would go home and I would begin processing what they said. Like, it would just be in my head. And I'd be like, oh man, wow, okay. And then that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And it has helped me over the years. It actually helped me to become much more better and being able to communicate with people, and that's just people in general, but also with clients, like being able to sit in a meeting with creative directors and art directors, and and you're holding your own. You're with them. They're sitting concepting stuff. These are people that have been in the industry. I'm in my heart of heart, I'm knowing that they're making an insane amount of poo-poo cat, more money than I'm making. I'm making a pretty good amount of money as a freelance illustrator, but they're making some good cheddar.
Yeah.
But they're still like listening to me. They're still like, hey, what's going on, Frank? I mean, stuff like that, and I just was learning. I would sit with them. Sometimes go out. They'd be like, "Hey, Frank, we're going to a party. You want to hang?" Sure. Hang with them. They'd be talking, and I would just listen. Listen about business. Listen about what marketing is and the power of marketing and how to think about branding. This was none of this stuff was like stuff I went to school for. Like I went to school, a 3-year school for commercial illustration. But I remember telling myself once I graduated, I said anything else that I'm going to learn will be from life
Yeah.
experience. Which again, I feel that college is great in certain degrees if you want to go to college. But man, nothing beats life experience when you're thrown into the gladiatorial ring,
Yep.
and you got to survive. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know. I didn't forget my gladiatorial ring experience. Oh man, oof, frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, my first job was my first real job and career was advertising, and
Hmm.
the first 2 years there
Yeah,
were insane. But
yeah.
like you said, I
Yeah,
learned a ton.
yeah. Which agency? Are you at liberty to
Um,
say or?
yeah, it's a Pittsburgh, PA. It's a company called
Hmm.
Blattner Bruner. They changed their name to Bruner, I think, but it was
Oh, okay.
probably the largest agency in the area.
Oh wow.
So, we worked with a lot of big clients,
Hmm.
and it was all fast. I don't need to tell you, it was fast paced, high
Yes.
pressure. It was
Yes.
like,
Well, that's the thing. I try to tell people. Like I remember once. This is so crazy. This is when I was already in the advertising, the field for a while, a couple of years, and I never forget somebody had suggested that their I don't know, it was like a friend's daughter. I think she was just graduating from high school or whatever, but they had somehow suggested that she try to come in to work at an agency. And we were going to try to help her, like what blew my mind was the fact that they were trying to introduce her at to come in, but she was going to be making a salary like we were making at the
wow.
time, which was mind blowing. So anyway, I was like, all right. So I remember her coming in, and I was trying to walk her through stuff. And my first thought was that she's not going to hack this. She's not going to be able to do this because I could already tell, like as I was talking to her, she didn't want to do it. She didn't have the passion for it. She actually, I think she wanted to be a chef or a baker or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I was like, why are you? I was like, why are you here then? I said, you should be following what you're passionate about. I said, and then they tried to put her on this easy, and I mean, technically, it was an easy job. I mean, for any one of us who already done it, it was an easy job, but it was like to do some layouts and stuff, and she couldn't do it, and she couldn't grapple like the time because I mean, literally, it was like one of those things where they was like, they got the gig that day, like early in the morning, like 9 a.m., and they needed by end of day.
Yep.
So that would have been like, maybe if you're pushing it, maybe like 6 o'clock at that night, and she just couldn't hack it, and so she was gone. Yeah, she didn't last. That was her one and
Yeah.
only day. And I always tell people, I said, the work in advertising, it takes a certain, you really got to be on your p's and q's.
Yeah. Absolutely. High turnaround because of,
Yes.
of
Well,
all that pressure.
well, I say like this, and I knew a lot of people who worked in comics, and I said, look, I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, yeah, and I understand comic books have their level of pressure too, but I'm like, nothing beats advertising. I said, there's a reason why in advertising you get paid. Or we got paid what we got paid because the thing is that it feels like you're dealing with with the adults. If they don't want you, they just won't hire you.
Yeah.
Period. If you don't do the job, you won't get hired. You won't get your phone won't ring again. You won't get an email. You won't get
Exactly.
anything. It just be like you be like, hey, I'm not working anymore. And so,
Ye-
but if you do good and you show that you can crush your deadlines and clients are liking what you're doing, then shoot, you'll get rewarded by more calls, and you'll find that a lot of art directors, because they bounced around to other agencies. That's how I got most of my work. There was a point when I first started in advertising, and I had to go around with my big old portfolio case and everything, and it was like, oh boy. And then after that, I mean, but that lasted like maybe a year, and then once I started really like I got into it, my first agency was called Bronner, Schlossberg, and Humphrey, and they were located at the Prudential building. But now what happened was they ended up getting bought out by Digitas. So years later they got bought out by Digitas, and then I was doing stuff with Digitas, Boston. But Bronner, Schlossberg, and Humphrey was huge at the time, and I remember my first assignment was working on a Delta campaign for Delta Airlines,
Well,
and I was sweating bricks. Because what happened was I had just gotten off of doing work in animation. I'd worked a couple of years as a freelance storyboard and concept artist for a local animation studio. Who they were doing tons of stuff. They did some stuff for MTV and a couple other different things, and they were really good. A lot of really talented artists. I mean, yeah, artists there, animators and stuff like that. I learned a lot from them as well. But once, with them, the business started changing, and I was just like, I need something a little bit more substantial and steadier. And so what I did was, a friend suggested that I go into advertising, and I said, okay, I'll try it. And then the first thing I sent, I remember sending pages over to this to Bronner, Schlossberg, and Humphrey, and I had comic book pages. And
Yeah, okay.
then I was like, oh, dude, I said I didn't hear anything because my friend he did a follow up, and he said, Frank, he said, hey, how's everything going? And I said, hey, man, I said I sent the stuff to this the art buyer, and I didn't hear anything. And they were like, well, what did you send? And I said, they were like, well, I sent some comic book stuff, and they were like, he was like, what are you, stupid? Yeah, that's how we communicate. What are you, stupid? I was like, what? What are you talking about? He was like, dude, he said, you can't send comic book pages to an ad agency. He said, all right, this is what you do. If you got a bunch of magazines around, look into the magazines, see various, take some images, and then draw them. Like, just draw as fast as possible. And then at the time, this is before computers really came in, digital coloring. So I had markers, and he said, take the markers and add color. And he said, and then submit those. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I did that. I opened up some magazines, I just looked at the images, and I drew really fast, super fast. And then I added some spot coloring. And as soon as I did that, I sent them in. Bingo, bango. I got work.
No
It was
kidding.
crazy. Yeah, I got work. And then the first gig was like working on for Delta Airlines campaign, and that was oh man, the art director with that one, it was a nightmare. That was a defining moment for me.
That's interesting because I was doing programming, but I was also
Yep,
doing illustration at the same time.
yep,
And I said, you know what? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to see if I can do this illustration thing.
sure,
And I had done a few things for the agency for illustration, like I don't know, not Crest, but Pronamo, a few
sure,
things here and
sure.
there. And I knew people in agencies, so hey, we need illustration, and I don't think I was cut out for it. Like the first
Yeah,
two things, it just wasn't me. It was easier for me to be a programmer than to
yeah,
do illustration. So
yep,
I gave up pretty quick, unfortunately,
yeah.
but
It's not
you
easy.
took that hard road. Yeah.
It's not easy. I mean, I can tell you stories of when, I'll say the worst one for me was because at this time too, I was working. I did a lot of collaboration with other artists. So because one artist would get so much work that they need to sub it out, and so he would contact me, and he said, "Hey Frank, I need you to do colors." And so again, I was always good with doing markers, using markers and stuff like that. So I never forget, like he ended up doing a. This was from New York, so we both here in Massachusetts. We were in Massachusetts, but the job was from a New York agency, and I remember like we did not sleep. It was 24 hours. And what he would do is he would draw the images, the storyboards, and I mean it had to have been like maybe I feel like it was like 300 storyboards. It was like
Wow.
an insane whatever they were pitching for, they were going all out. And I just remember not getting sleep. And while he would because he was dealing with it because he was the main guy running this, um, he would just contact me and say, Frank, I'm sending stuff over. I need you to color. So I was just like there was moments where I remember almost falling asleep, like just dozing off, and all of a sudden the phone would ring, and I'm like, God dang it! And the next thing I know, I gotta color. And he's like, Oh, we need these. So that was probably the worst one because I remember after that job, that paid very well. Let me remind you, that paid very well. But I remember passing out from sheer exhaustion, just sheer exhaustion because the timeline, I think the time period that we had was from yeah, it was very quick. I feel like it was like the next day almost kind of thing. Yeah, so 24 hours. Yeah, so it was crazy. Oh, Breezy, you gone? Hello? Hello? Hey, Jefferson, what's going on, man? Greetings. Oh, hello.
I don't know what happened.
Hello? I don't know either. Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. The StreamYard, I think, just died for a second.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I was just ranting. I was just, I was like talking to him, like, dude, what happened? Was I talking too much?
Yeah, oh, I tried to text or post to Jefferson Roswell, who just popped in, and as soon as I tried to send a comment, it just went nuts.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have my phone on the side where I'm gonna try to maybe do comments and stuff. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I remember I was doing a draw stream with Ben Soto, and I think Justin. I hope I said his name right. Justin, don't get mad at me. But yeah, I know. But yeah, let me see if I can subscribe to you. So your thing is H and the Keyhole Idol. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's the title. Like, until I get 100 subscribers, like that YouTube channel is gonna look like, you know.
All right, let me see if I can find it. So anyway, yeah, and I was on a draw stream with them. H and the Keyhole, okay. And I was doing it off of my phone. And that was, for some reason, it kept kicking me off. It kept dropping out. I was like, it forced me to end up getting this actual camera. Like, I was like, I got to get a camera. H in the key phone. Trying to find it. Oh, no. I'm about to almost say Netflix. But Netflix is YouTube. H in the Keyhole Idol. Okay. Oh, technology.
Oh well, I won't try to text. So if somebody pops up, then I'll just say hi. But I think it might be a problem with their chat system or something.
Let me see. Okay, here you go. I found you. And then I'm gonna sub.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Gotcha. Just subbed. Live chat. All right, cool. Here, let me cut my sound down so you don't hear. All right, there you go. Sound down. Hey, I'm actually communicating using it on my phone.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so advertising's not for the faint of heart. That's why it's funny because yeah, I remember when I first saw that Alex Ross was going to enter into the comic book industry. I remember to that day. I remember when they had mentioned that he was doing, I think it was Terminator books or whatever. I was like that guy, because I think he worked at Leo Burnett, and I had seen some of his advertising stuff, and I was like, this guy's incredible. Like Alex Ross can draw.
Yeah,
that dude can draw, man. But I mean, draw in a sense where there's energy to his work and whatever. And I said, if he gets in the comic industry, he's gonna dominate. He's gonna dominate. Because he's gonna come in there with the mentality of somebody who's worked in the ad industry, and it's gonna be no joking. He's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna crush these deadlines. I'm gonna, bang it out and whatever. It's a different kind of mentality. And so as soon as he got in, what happened? He did Terminator. I think he did some other stuff, and all of a sudden he's like, boom! Overnight, it just seemed like he was just like, okay, now I'm on Marvels.
Yeah,
and his work, and his work is phenomenal. His work ethic is. I love watching his videos. Because he's so on point. Like I love how there was one time I was drawing, and he did a short little video, and someone asked him, they were like one question. He said, "Well, hey Alex, why won't you do your own create your own comic?" And it was so poignant. Like I literally stopped drawing because he hit it. He said, I'll be honest with you. He's like, I've been working as an artist for years, and that's my livelihood. That's my career. He said, it's very odd for me to try to do my own thing and not get paid for it. And I was like, that's it. Because that's part of me too. There's a strange thing where like it's hard for me to work on something and not get paid for it. Because
that makes sense.
Because I've been ingrained. I've worked so many years as a commercial illustrator for clients that I'm motivated. So like if somebody, says, okay, Frank, I need you a cover or something like that, then that's a job. And then I'm like, okay, all of a sudden my mind, there's a part of my mind that clicks and goes, okay, that's a gig, that's a job. I got to get it done. I got to get it the best it is and whatever. Now, if I had to sit here in my studio and just be like, oh, let me try to think of something and whatever, I don't know. My motivation level isn't that high for that.
Yeah.
And trust me, there's times when I have worked on my own stuff. But immediately what goes on is that as soon as I work on it, paying gigs come up, and then I'm just like, okay, that gets put into the back burner,
Yeah.
because the lights have to stay on. That's my whole
Exactly.
mentality. So it is a tough thing. It's really, it's kind of hard. But he nailed it when he said that. I was like, yep, that's just how I feel. It's a hard thing, especially when you've been doing it for years and years. I can't just, if I do something for fun, it was mostly those big pictures. It wasn't like sequential. It wasn't sequential. It'd be like when I did the Godzilla piece, and I was working on those, and I was planning on doing a whole series of massive illustrations. That was fun. But now that I've started getting really into like doing comic book stuff, now I'm like, I'm more focused on that now.
Yeah, I basically stopped everything that I was doing artistically and focused on comics 100% because I do 3D modeling and other stuff.
Oh,
I said, you know
man.
what? To get really good at comics, I just got to focus because you can't have 5 different kind of outlets and really, progress in one aspect.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And my thing too is that for me, illustrating, like I'm somebody who I love sequential artwork. Period. I think that's my drive. My drive is sequential. That's why I love storyboards, and I love keyframes and things like that. Comic books fall into that same arena. It's just the ability to be able to tell a story, but visually, like panel to panel, and whatever. And that's what really gets me, like, that's my high. And then if I see people who are also doing it, that gets me more excited as well. Like when I saw you doing your sketch cards and the amount of information that you were putting in there, I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. That made me very, very happy to see that.
Thank you. I mean, again, the sketch card thing is a new thing to me, but it really kind of opened up my eyes to like a new art form in a way, because it's a unique size, like it's really interesting. I've been loving it, and I plan on doing a bunch more.
Yeah, when I first got introduced to sketch cards, it was back in 2009, and at that time I was still hardcore. I was really hardcore in advertising, so I was kind of like, but there was always that little itch in me where I'm still a comic book guy. I would still like read comic books and fantasy and stuff, and so. On Facebook, I would just post my stuff. I would just like, I don't care. I'll just post it because that's the kind of artist I am. I'm in the frame of thought of like the old school artists who just kind of put this stuff out, and then people can look at it and they can sort of, come to whatever their feelings about it, and then I just kind of go, okay, well, cool, well, that's whatever, and I'm glad you such and such, and we move on. So anyway, I put my artwork out, and then I got contacted by a guy who was a publisher of sketch cards. And at that point, I was getting all kind of contacts from people. Hey, dude, you're a great artist. Blah 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 blah. This is a business thing, and most of them just didn't pan out. So I was just kind of, I take it with a grain of salt kind of thing. But this particular guy was like, no, he's like, I'm for real. He said, I have a sketch card company, and it's called 550 Productions, and I have a license, and I really think your artwork would fit. And I said, okay, well, who's your license? And he said, Archie. And I said, get out of here. I said, get out. I know that. I was like, get out of here. And his name was Steven Frank. And I said, get out of here, man. And he's like, yeah. He says, real. I said, okay. And I asked him how much, and it was really nothing. I mean, sketch cards, they're like pennies on a dollar. The only time you make money in sketch cards, if you're in the sketch card industry, is by the collectors. And when companies would, like, say you work on a card set, they would end up giving you, they would pay you. So it would be like, I don't know. At the time, I think it was like, and this may even be too high. I feel like it was like $1.50 per card, sketch card. Wow. And I'm talking full color, right? Jeez. But here's the kicker. Then say like if you do, I don't know, 50 cards, you get 2 two special cards, which would be called your artist proof cards, and these would have a stamp on them. Now, these artist proof cards, that's where your real gold is, because after the sets come out, now collectors can come and they can commission you, and usually artists can be like, well, yeah, that's going to cost you $200 for one sketch card.
Okay. Wow.
See what I mean? So technically, yeah, like I can tell you right now with a straight face, there are artists out there that have made careers out of sketch cards. There are artists out there, I have seen it, artists that have made on one card $5,000.
Jeez.
Yeah, it depends on who you are as an artist. You know, if you're a really popular artist, there are artists that have made $5,000. They have made their careers. So yeah, you know, people in comic, but it's so funny because you think of people in the comic books industry, and you look at because I I'm in a group on Facebook where you have people buying commissions, and I'm always shaking my head. It's so weird because I'll see people dropping like $300-$400 for like I guess, have you ever heard the word marquee? A marquee?
No.
Yeah, I guess a marquee is like a headshot. So say if somebody commissioned you to do a headshot, right? I'm seeing people purchasing like $300 for like a headshot from some artists.
Wow.
Who, I mean, these are artists, granted, these are artists that have already been in the industry and stuff, but still, I mean, you're seeing, and it's not even like detailed stuff either. It's like you know, sometimes it's not even, it's kind of rough, and it just blows my mind. So it's technically everything you see in comic books is similar somewhat with sketch cards. Although the sketch card, my opinion, the sketch card field with collectors is much more smaller than the comic book field.
The thing that's interesting about sketch cards too is I like the idea of, I mean, you can have a giant art collection that fits in a binder. You know, I buy artwork from people, but I need wall space, and it's like, good Lord, I would love to buy more from this guy who paints. Bob Ableton is his name. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh yeah, I know Bob. Sure do. Bob lives here in Rhode Island.
Oh my God, I love his stuff, and I used to read this series of books called Necroscope a long time ago.
Okay.
And I actually purchased some of his covers that he was selling from the books that I read as a kid. It was I freaking love it. It's incredible to me. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, I only have so much wall space, you know. Yeah. But cards, you can fit a whole bunch of cards in a binder.
Well, I got some cards myself. I'm a collector, so I'm the same way. I love various artwork. I usually my sets are, I do have a few some cards that are not related to robots or kajus, but that's really my high point, like of cards that I get and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, I'm starting to slowly build one with the Alterna stuff too. I'm just happy to see people embracing it, because that's kind of like what I wanted. I was like, man, I was like, why aren't more people in the comic books doing sketch cards? And that always, you know, but I'll be saying this to people who are in the sketch card community, and they kind of, you know, I would hear crickets. But it's so weird. But now that you're starting to see it, especially, you know, the way Pete's embraced it and stuff like that, you're more and more, and other people, like, you know, same thing, like with my man Spencer here. So, let's see.
All right. I think I'm going to be ending this pretty soon. I got to grab some food.
Oh, no problem, man. No, this is fun, man. It actually gave me a chance. Because, yeah, it's like I'm working on the comic book, man, the pages and stuff, and it's coming good. But I was like, I saw your post, and I said, I could do this. I said, I like sneaking on. That's my whole thing. I like this out of the blue just popping up sometimes. You know?
I appreciate it. I love these cards you're doing with that head. That looks so cool.
It's so weird. There you go.
Oh my God, I love that.
He's like slapping the freaking thing out the way.
That's fantastic.
So we'll see. I'm not going to make promises that we're not going to be in color or not. I like to, you know, surprise people just in case, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for popping in. And I'll see you on Twitter. What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is Frankie B. Washington. Simple as that.
That's a simple one.
Yeah, right. I just added you. I just subscribed to you, so you should have a subscription thing with my name that popped up.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, man.
Thanks for popping on. I'll talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
Fantastic. You take care, brother.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.